Hi everyone, hope you're doing wonderful. Welcome to the second episode of the Early Career Podcast. This is your host and friend Priyanka Mahankali, and today we are here to talk about a very important topic, which is on fear, self doubt, uncertainty, and just the feeling that you won't make it, right? I've been there. I'm sure everyone who literally exists on this earth has been there in some shape or form. So before we get started, let me tell you, you're not alone. And hopefully that gives you some sense of calm that you're not the only one that feels fear. See, these are all natural human emotions, right? And when we feel them, especially when we are younger, in high school and in undergrad and in masters maybe, when you feel those things when you're younger, the intensity of that is very high, right? You feel like that's it now, nothing's going to happen, nothing's ever going to happen good in your life. And the intensity of that is so high that it kind of consumes you. And maybe that's what you feel. I'm guessing that that's what you feel, that you're never going to stop feeling afraid. And then that thought probably scares you, right? And if you feel that way, let me tell you that I've been there, everyone in the world has been there, or is there still, everyone's still afraid of different things. But thinking back to my own journey, when I was in my high school and my undergrad, I felt like, you know, I didn't know if I was smart enough. I didn't know if I was capable enough. And I didn't know, who would want to hire me. I would always wonder if anyone wanted to hire me ever. And I thought I'd just literally be jobless, for the rest of my life. Right? Um, and along with all the existing insecurities and fears that we may have, that we may carry with us from our childhood, it's hard to comprehend or envision a life where you think everything will work out. But it will, and we'll get to that. But first off, I want to take this moment to acknowledge your fear, your feeling of self doubt, the feeling that you won't make it, or the feeling of just continuous, um, the sense of the sinking sense of failure, and that you won't make your parents proud, or you won't make your family and people around you in your community proud, and things like that. First off, remove all of those things from your head about how you're going to make other people feel good about who you are, right? Because that's a thing that we feel very intensely, especially when we are in our teens and our 20s. We feel like, oh my god, if I don't do well in life, then I'm going to disappoint my family, or I'm going to disappoint the people around me. And what will people think if I didn't make it somehow, right? If I didn't get a job, or if I didn't get into undergrad, into a good school. Just different kinds of fears at different points of time, different points of your life phases, right? And I want to acknowledge that fear, that's one, because I understand, and I'm not here to give you a motivational speech saying, you're going to be fine, and it's, be strong, and, be confident. And because, at that age, what does be strong mean? And what does be confident mean, right? Because you don't know how to be confident or be strong, because not even just because you don't know, because even if you know, the fear is so heightened that it overpowers the confidence. So even the very little confidence that you might have probably is overshadowed by the immense sense of fear and self doubt that again comes from our own insecurities, right? So I totally understand. So first off, accept that you are afraid. And I know this is a very hard thing, everything that I'm saying may not be easy, and I'm not assuming that it is, or I'm not thinking that, because you might tell me, oh, Priyanka, you don't know what I'm going through. Right? I completely understand that. And it's easier said than done. Sometimes we hear in all of these motivational speeches that, do this and be that. But in reality, it's really hard to do those things. And as a society, I think we just need to accept more that, yes, we are human beings, we are afraid, we feel fear, we have our own insecurities, and that's okay, right? That's okay. So accept that you feel afraid to your own self, to your own self. Recognize that you feel afraid and then accept that fear, that yes, this is what I'm afraid of. Once you've accepted your fear and once you recognize where that fear is coming from, and maybe that fear is a sign, you can also take it as a sign to understand what is your fear trying to tell you. Maybe you're afraid that you will not be smart enough. Okay, so then work on becoming smart. And that's one way to overcome. I won't even call it overcome, because I don't think you ever overcome fear. You just kind of learn to live with it, and you kind of make friends with your fear. You're just like, oh, you're there again today, or you again. Okay, fine, come, let's have lunch together. you know at this point, I just accept that, yeah, you know I have a lot of shit to deal with, that I have to think about. And you think that, oh, if I go into my 30s and 40s, I'll become less afraid because I'll have all this experience and career, that path that's built. But that's not true. Every stage of life exposes a new kind of fear that you didn't even know you had. you know Fear of failure manifests in so many different ways, and it's hopefully this gives you also some sense of um, calm, that it's not just you who may be in your teens or 20s or even 30s, but it's everybody. Sometimes when I'm afraid, I or I'm fearful, or I feel insecure about something, at work, that may have happened, and I don't know how to deal with it. I or I just have a sense of self doubt, right? I call one of my mentors, and we'll definitely talk about how do you build that mentor network in a following podcast episode. But I would go to one of my mentors, I would call them and be like, hey, I feel horrible today. I feel like I don't feel confident today, and I feel this huge sense of self doubt that's just overpowering all of my emotions, and I don't know how to deal with it. And even just sharing that can actually help release a lot of your just emotions that you're holding back. And they would tell me that, hey, it's not just you. And I feel I have the same issues that you have. And this person might be in like his 50s or their 50s or 40s or 60s. And I'm like, what are you saying, that at that point of life you don't get rid of it? And they're like, no, Priyanka, it's lifelong. It's there for the rest of your life. You're always afraid of something. You have some insecurity at every stage of your life, and you just have to learn to deal with it. So so hopefully this makes you feel better, that you know you're never getting rid of it. So why get rid of it then, now, at this stage of your life, right? You have to realize that this fear is never leaving you. You're never going to stop being insecure. And I know a lot of people say things like, oh, do this to conquer your insecurity. And yeah, some of these messages I like, which are structures and frameworks that can help you deal with it. But I don't believe that nobody has insecurities, and nobody has fear of something, fear of failure in some way, shape, or form. Even the CEO of like the biggest company in the world has their own fears of, oh, what if I make one bad decision and the whole company just sinks under me, right? So at every level, people are making all kinds of decisions with some sense of fear at the back of their mind. And for you, it might be that, you're in high school and you're not able to figure out what path to take. You don't know what your interests are. You're not really fully clear about what you want to do after high school. And maybe your parents are telling you to do something, pursue some path, but you don't really feel it. And then you're also then spiraling out of control in your head, thinking, oh, I don't know what I want to do. So, and maybe there's other students in your class that seem like they know exactly what they want to do. And that's okay too. Not knowing can also be a wonderful gift to have. You know, I'm afraid too right now making this podcast because it's not something I've ever done, but it's the passion and the mission to help you all that drive me to not overcome, to befriend my fear and make it walk with me in parallel. So, you can still be afraid and still do what you need to do in your life. You don't have to try to remove the fear, because that creates resistance. And I'm sure we all know the basic principles of physics, right? More energy is required to resist something than pulling back, right? So take a step back and accept your fear. And I'm repeating this over and over again because there'll be moments where your fear is so strong and powerful that it consumes you to the extent where you can't think about anything else. And that's exactly when you need to remember that you are human and that fear is a part of who you are. It's a part of all of us. Okay? And I want you to remember in those moments that you are not alone. Rely on someone that cares about you, and share with them how you feel, that you are afraid of this. And if you don't have anyone in your family, then, look around for look around to friends and mentors and, people who may be in your community that may be going through the same thing. And I know this is, again, easier said than done, but sharing really helped me. I used to always share with my friends. I would call them and say, hey, I need a pep talk. I'm feeling very afraid about this, or I'm not really sure if I'm doing the right thing. Those kinds of things. So it's important to really have someone that you can share with so you can release the energy from your body, and then take their advice, see what parts of the advice you want to take, and then continue. Just keep going. Accept your fear and keep walking. It's like, have you seen this analogy of, or heard this analogy of, like there's a path and then there's fog, right? The path is filled with fog, and the only way that you can see ahead is if you keep walking. And as you keep walking, the fog clears up for you, and then you keep walking and keep walking and keep walking until you reach your destination. So as you keep walking on that foggy path, over time, it starts getting clearer. Trust me, it does, because, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was very confused, and we live in a world where we are expected to know every single thing. We're expected to know what we want to do, who we want to be. And if you don't know that just yet, then it's frowned upon, right? But it's okay to not know what you want to do, and take that as an opportunity to find out. Just don't sit with that fear for too long, or sit with, the feeling of self-doubt. My previous manager used to always tell me that, Priyanka, when you feel this, because I would tell him sometimes that, hey, I feel this way, I feel emotionally challenged or drained, or, I feel like I don't feel very confident right now. I don't know why I feel this way. And I would share with him as a mentor and friend. And that's the relationship we had beyond that person being my manager. And so my manager would tell me to just kind of shift my focus from the feelings that I was having to just putting it, into studying about something, and like something logical, something more structured and that's logical. So it could be something that you're learning newly. Maybe it's about AI right now, or maybe it's, there's so much content about so many different kinds of things that you can just watch or learn. So put your mind into learning. And that's something your mind doesn't want you to do, because your mind wants you to overthink and wants you to be afraid. So you have to beat your mind by saying, no, you know what, I'm not going to let you overpower me. In fact, I'm going to find a way to work around you by focusing on something logical, trying to learn something new. And when you feed your brain with something new, then your brain starts thinking in that direction. It changes course over time, because you're just focused on something else. You're thinking about something else that is more impactful, that can maybe add value in a real way, and that can really help with some of those emotional challenges that we may have. Even just, things like anxiety and depression, right? I mean, I'm no therapist, but one of the things that really help in those, especially with anxiety, is to just keep yourself busy, keep yourself doing something. And my manager would always tell me this. And sometimes I would think, oh, why is he not understanding what I'm saying, or not why is he not understanding, but more like does he get what I feel. And his response would always be the same. Priyanka, put your mind into something else, learn something else, be productive, get your mind off of that. So, and he would basically, when he would experience things like that in his own life, he would just buy like a technical book and just start reading it. And I'm like, what why are you doing this? And he'll be like, no, that's just because I need to shift my mind. I need to refocus and think about something different. I can't just be sinking in my own thoughts. And we all get these thoughts, right? And that's where fear becomes overpowering. Failure feels overpowering. Self-doubt, uncertainty. And one more thing about uncertainty is, the thing about uncertainty is, that's the one thing I think reduces over time, because as you start building your life and building your career step by step, your level of uncertainty definitely reduces. So that's good news, right? But you will have a lot of uncertainty in your teens and your 20s. Everyone had that, and everyone who is going through that is going through that, because there's the path is not created yet, so you feel uncertain, and it's okay to feel that way. I just want to say, I'm not going to give you any advice about how to just not feel that way, because no matter what I tell you, you're still going to feel those things. And it's the same thing with fear and self-doubt and all of that. You're still going to feel those things no matter what I tell you, or no matter what anyone tells you, or any motivational speech provides you. Maybe for that day you'll feel better, and then the next day you'll again come back to the same spiral. Right? I mean, I've been there, trust me. And I mean, even now there are things in my life that I'm afraid of, and I have to confront my fears every day in order to just function normally. And some days I have a lot more anxiety about my own capabilities, some days more than others. And I realize I will always have that. I will always have that. There is no way to completely remove it. If a person that doesn't have it basically has no self-awareness. Because if you have self-awareness, which is a good thing, right? But if you're emotionally connected with yourself and you have self-awareness, then you will have some sense of insecurity, and that's a good thing, because then you identify that and then you start working on it. And in the long term, it actually makes you a better person. It makes you a better person than someone who just completely like shuts their emotions and just is, has no emotions at all, right, at that point. Because then they're creating a defense mechanism where they don't feel things, and that's not a great place to be either. You'd rather feel things and deal with it and then learn from it than not feel them at all. So I never tell people to not have fear or not have insecurities or not have self-doubt, or I just listen and I acknowledge and I understand. I tell them that I understand. And if there are any minor things that I can share from my own experience that have helped me navigate that, I will say navigate, not overcome, then I share it with them. For example, some of the things I just shared with you about trying to learn something new, gaining some kind of knowledge can actually help navigate some of the fear by shifting the focus from fear to opportunity. And the other thing I think is that's very important is, and I know if you're, if someone told me this when I was, when I was 20 or 20, even 25, I'd be like, like, what the hell are you talking about? I don't want to do this. But my tip for you is, if you're able to do some sort of meditation, some sort of meditative practice from a young age, it can really, really help you with keeping you grounded, or rather keeping your emotions regulated to some extent. Because what meditation does is, it doesn't stop your thoughts, but it lets your thoughts be without those thoughts impacting you. Does that make sense? So you're not creating any resistance where you're saying, I'm going to stop all these thoughts from coming. No. Because sometimes people think that that's what meditation is, where you have to just have no thoughts. So meditation is a practice where you're able to sit with your thoughts, have all of your thoughts, the whole range of thoughts you have, and not be consumed by your thoughts, right? So what you're doing essentially is that you're building a practice where you are not creating resistance. Because if you resist your thoughts, you will be resisting them forever. And you will be in the mindset of resisting it so much to the extent where it's going to cause you, again, anxiety and depression and all of those things that stem from just the fundamental thought process of stopping those thoughts or resisting those thoughts. So don't resist your thoughts, let them come, let your thoughts come, and be courageous to have your thoughts be there and not let it consume you. So the only thing we need to do is to walk alongside our thoughts, walk with them. In fact, make friends with your thoughts. You're like, oh, you again? Like, talk to them, like as though it's a third entity or a second entity. And it's, that also creates a mindset of realizing that your thoughts are not you. Your fear, your insecurities are not you at the very core. They are part of your human existence, but they don't have to consume you, because they are not you at the very core of your being. And that's what meditation is designed to do. So I would really encourage everyone, even if you're um, in school, whether you're in your undergrad, your master's, whatever phase of life. Even now, I do what is called guided meditation. So this is a form of meditation where, there's someone kind of telling you what to do, how to breathe, and even breath work. Breath work can really calm you down, bring down the anxiety, bring down all these thoughts of fear and uncertainty and failure and all of that. You won't believe how effective it is. So, without going into too much detail, look up guided meditation in YouTube and try doing it once. Try doing it once and maybe try doing it for 1 week consistently. And keep in mind, initially you won't like it. And that's how it's supposed to be. Because initially your brain is your thoughts are so overpowering that you cannot sit with them. And meditation is about sitting with those thoughts. So initially your brain is going to resist meditation because it's going to say, no, 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 I don't want this. I want you to be anxious, right? So it's going to be hard for the first week, but you will see your own self feeling a little bit regulated after just 1 week of meditation. For me, guided meditation works. There are different kinds of meditation, but maybe that's a start. Try this out and see how you feel. So in conclusion, make friends with your fear and realize that everyone's afraid of something. Everyone feels uncertain of something. Everyone's afraid to fail. Everyone's going through every emotion that you're going through. Believe me. And I still feel those emotions even now, emotions of, because our brain is just wired to create new problems that don't exist, right? Like if you don't have a problem, your brain starts thinking, oh, let me find a new problem that doesn't exist, and then let me create this problem and make this so big in my head that it overpowers me. And that's the time or the part where you need to realize that this is what your brain is doing. So it's almost like getting inside and trying to understand in an objective sense what your brain is actually making you do. And those are where these feelings start to come from and grow from. So make friends with your thoughts. Know that your family and your friends and people around you care for you and that you're not alone. And trust me, you will eventually be fine. This is a learning journey. This is something you have to take step by step, one day at a time. You have to take baby steps and you have to take it one day at a time. Do not think of the future. Do not think of the future. I mean, as interesting it might be to think of the future, in some ways we are living in the present. We don't know if we'll be there tomorrow, and we're all mortal beings, right? We have a limited lifespan. So if you think of it from even that perspective, you have to live for today, and you have to plan for the future, but live one day at a time, and truly live one day at a time. So befriend your fear, be kind to yourself, give yourself some grace. You're born on this earth for a purpose, for a much larger purpose than what you're seeing today and maybe what you're experiencing today. And I know it might be really hard for you to think or for you to do what I'm telling you. You might think that all of this is great, but Priyanka, I have so much going on. I have this problem and that problem, and I totally get that. And that's why I'm saying that it's not going to be solved in one day. It's going to be solved over a period of time, right? And put yourself in some sort of learning mode. Keep learning, keep working on yourself, and that way you can have fear of things, and in parallel you will also be achieving things, and you'll be building little by little, and over time you are kind of walking in parallel with fear, and you're accomplishing things on the side as you still feel fearful, right? Like, When I go for presentations on stage, of course I'm afraid, but I'm afraid and I still do it. And I think I do a pretty good job at that. Not because I'm not afraid, but because I also feel passionate about presenting. What I'm saying is that you don't have to stop the fear. You just have to keep walking, keep learning, keep building yourself, and just keep going. Keep going is the only way that you can. One day when you look back, you will realize that, somehow you made it and you achieved your dreams and that you were successful. And if you don't know what that path looks like right now, well, that's what we are here on this podcast to help you build, offer you the tools, both emotional intelligence and intellect, so IQ, to actually equip you with some of the skills that are required to be in the industry, be in the market. And so I'm here for you. I'm always there for you. Don't feel shy to reach out to people that you may know, your friends. You can reach out to me as well anytime on LinkedIn, and I'm happy to chat with you and support you. And if you want just for you to talk, right, I'm happy to do any of that. And with that, I will conclude this podcast episode. The next one is going to be on all things AI. So it's going to be about what kind of things you can learn within the realm of AI, and then how do you apply those sort of academic knowledge into industry focused use cases, so real use cases that drive businesses and things like that, so that maybe you can use it in your school projects. Maybe it's something you can use in your work if you're working. So I'm just going to give you some ideas around where you can kind of actually implement AI if you're building something using that, and just give you some industry exposure from where I'm coming from. And with that, thank you so much once again for listening. I really appreciate your time. And stay healthy, stay passionate, stay brave. Very important. Stay brave. And everything is eventually going to be okay. Believe that. Believe that it is going to be okay. And one day it will be. Take care. Thank you so much for listening once again, and I will see you again next Tuesday with the topic of AI. Thanks so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care. Bye.